When I woke up in the hospital ward after my stroke, I had no idea that my only daughter was already plotting to rob me of millions. When the doctors told me I had memory issues, saw her chance. My name is Laura, I'm 67 years old and I live in Boston. I've always been a strong woman, built a successful career in real estate, raised my daughter after divorcing her father, and amassed a fortune. My pride and joy was my collection of antique jewelry, worth $2.9 million, which I'd curated over 30 years. Each piece wasn't just beautiful, it was a slice of history, a memory of pivotal moments in my life. I remember that day in vivid detail, despite what the doctors say about my memory. Strange, isn't it? That morning, I was working in my home office, reviewing offers for high-end properties in Back Bay. Outside my Charles Street mansion, a light snow was falling. I'd just finished a call with a potential buyer when I felt an odd heaviness in my left arm. At first, I thought it was just numbness from hours at the computer, but when I reached for my coffee cup, my hand wouldn't obey. Panic hit me like a wave. I knew something was seriously wrong. I whispered, dialing my daughter's number with trembling fingers. Speaking was getting harder, words tangling. Come, something's wrong. Arrived in 20 minutes. My 35-year-old daughter looked worried but composed, exactly how I'd raised her. She called an ambulance and rode with me to the hospital. In the ambulance, I tried to speak, but my words wouldn't form sentences. For the first time in my life, I felt helpless. Held my hand, soothing me. It's going to be okay, Mom. I'm here. I'll take care of everything. At Massachusetts General, they whisked me away for tests. MRI, blood work, endless questions from doctors. The diagnosis was confirmed, an ischemic stroke of moderate severity. Dr. Martinez explained to me that the damage affected areas of my brain responsible for speech and to some extent memory. Recovery is possible, but it'll take time, he said. Mrs. may experience temporary short-term memory issues, especially in the first few months. Family support is crucial. Lying in my hospital bed, hooked to an IV, I watched talk to the doctor. She asked the right questions, jotting notes in a pad, my smart girl. In that moment, I felt nothing but gratitude for having such a caring daughter. But now, months later, I realized that's when the plan took shape. 3 days later, I was discharged, insisted I move in with her for recovery. Her Cambridge home was smaller than mine but cozy, with a spare bedroom. She said it'd be easier to care for me there. Moms, you can't live alone right now, she urged. What if it happens again? I need to be close to help. Deep down, I wanted to stay in my own home, surrounded by familiar things. But the doctor agreed with the first few weeks were best spent under supervision. Fine, I said, but only for a month or two until I'm stronger. Smiled, of course, Mom, whatever you need. My Charles Street house stood empty. Took the keys to check on things she said she'd stop by to get the mail, water the plants. I gave her the alarm code. But I didn't mention one thing. Inside my safe, alongside the jewelry and important documents, a hidden camera had been recording for 2 years. I'd installed it after an attempted burglary at a neighbor's house just for peace of mind, didn't know about it. The next 3 weeks were filled with intensive rehab, drove me to physical therapy, speech therapy, and follow-up appointments. She was attentive, cooking my favorite meals, reading to me when I was too tired to read myself. My speech gradually improved. Memory was trickier. I'd forget what I did an hour ago or whether I'd taken my meds. Kept a notebook to track my tasks and medications. Don't worry, Mom, she'd say when I got upset about memory lapses. The doctor said this is temporary, your brain's healing. During this time, often went to my house. She said she was checking on things, picking up mail. Sometimes she brought me letters or documents to sign. Mom, here's a utility bill that needs paying, she'd say, handing me a pen. I signed without looking. I trusted my daughter completely, until the day something made me doubt her. I was in the living room, looking at family photos, when I spotted an odd item on her coffee table. A brooch Victorian with sapphires and diamonds, very familiar. I called, "Where did you get this brooch?" She came out of the kitchen with tea. Seeing the brooch in my hand, she hesitated for a split second. "Oh, it's yours, Mom. Remember, you gave it to me before the stroke. You said you wanted me to start wearing family heirlooms." I frowned. That brooch belonged to my grandmother, one of the most valuable pieces in my collection. I'd never give it away without a special reason. I don't remember, I started. Mom, she said gently, sitting beside me, the doctor warned us about memory issues. You gave it to me in February for my birthday, said it was time to pass down family treasures. Her birthday was in February, true, and I did sometimes forget recent events. Maybe I had given it to her and forgotten. Okay, I said uncertainly, maybe you're right. But something inside me resisted. That brooch was worth about $50,000. Could I have given it away so carelessly? A few days later, I asked to take me to my house. I want to check on things, I said, and grab a few more items. Reluctantly agreed. Sure, Mom, but let's not stay long, okay? You need to conserve your energy. My house greeted me with silence and a musty smell. Opened windows to air it out, and I went to my study where the safe was. The large steel safe was built into the wall behind a bookcase. I entered the code, my mother's birth date, and opened the heavy door. At first glance, everything seemed in place. Documents, cash, jewelry in their cases. But as I examined the collection closely, I noticed something missing. The emerald earrings, my husband's gift for our 10th anniversary, were gone. They were worth about $75,000. I called. She hurried over. What's wrong, Mom? My emerald earrings aren't here. The big ones in gold settings, have you seen them? Peered into the safe. Are you sure they were here, Mom? Maybe you moved them somewhere else or to a bank vault. I didn't have a bank vault. All my valuables were at home, but was right. Maybe I'd moved them and forgot. Don't worry, she soothed. We'll find them. Maybe they're in your jewelry box upstairs. We checked the bedroom, but the earrings weren't there. All right, I said, maybe I'm mixing things up. But unease was growing. On my next visit home, I decided to do a thorough inventory. I had a detailed catalog of all my jewelry with photos and appraised values kept for insurance purposes. What I found shocked me. Not only were the emerald earrings missing, but so were a pearl necklace with a diamond clasp, $150,000. A gold bracelet with rubies, $95,000. A ring with a large diamond, $220,000. An antique tiara, $180,000. The total value of the missing pieces exceeded $700,000. My hands shook as I reviewed the list. This couldn't be a coincidence or my forgetfulness. Someone had deliberately taken the most valuable items. Was in the kitchen making tea. I called her and showed her the catalog. Look, these pieces are gone from the safe. 7 of the most expensive items just vanished. She took the catalog and studied the list. Mom, she said, concerned, maybe you should call the police. Could someone have broken in while you were in the hospital? But the alarm never went off, I countered, and there's no sign of a break-in. Someone knew the code. Then paused, maybe you moved them to a bank or gave them to someone for safekeeping. Your memory might be playing tricks. I shook my head. I didn't give these to anyone, and they're not in a bank. Mom, she said softly, I know this is scary, but the doctor warned about memory issues. Maybe you made a decision and forgot. Her voice was so convincing that I started doubting myself. What if she was right? What if the stroke had affected my memory more than I thought? The next few days were filled with agonizing doubt. I obsessed over the jewelry, trying to piece together the last few months. But the harder I tried, the my memories became. Stayed by my side, supportive, but I saw worry in her eyes. She kept telling me to stress less, rest more. Mom, stress can slow your recovery, she'd say. Even if the jewelry's gone, it's not the most important thing, your health is. That day, she suggested I see Dr. Martinez for an unscheduled checkup. Tell him about the memory issues, she insisted. He might adjust your treatment. At the appointment, I told the doctor about the missing jewelry. He listened carefully. Mrs., he said, memory issues post-stroke are normal. Short-term memory, especially, can be affected. It's possible you did something with the jewelry and don't recall. But doctor, I protested, how could I forget something that important? Unfortunately, you could. Your brain is processing differently now. I suggest focusing on recovery, not stressing over this. Nodded, agreeing with him. See, Mom, the doctor, saying what I've been telling you. Leaving the hospital, I felt defeated. If the doctor thought I could forget the fate of jewelry worth hundreds of thousands, maybe something was wrong with me. Suggested I move back home. You're strong enough now, Mom. You'll feel more at ease in your own space. I'll visit every day to check on you. I agreed, eager to return to normalcy. The first day back, I checked the safe again. More pieces were gone. A sapphire set, earrings, ring, pendant, $280,000. Antique gold watch, $65,000. Brooch with a large topaz, $45,000. Over $1 million worth of jewelry was now missing. I was horrified. Someone was systematically stealing from my collection, starting from the time of my stroke. When came that evening, I confronted her with the catalog. Look, more jewelry's gone. Someone's taking my things. She glanced at the list and I saw something odd in her eyes, not surprise or fear, irritation. Mom, she said wearily, we've been over this. It's your memory. Maybe you gave these to friends or someone and forgot. What friends? I exclaimed. I don't give away jewelry worth hundreds of thousands. Moms, you know your memory isn't what it used to be. The doctor confirmed it. Maybe you wanted to make a gift and forgot. No, I shouted. I remember every piece. I didn't give them away. Hugged me. Mom, please calm down. I know you're scared, but you can't stress like this. It's bad for you. Her embrace felt cold. For the first time, I felt my daughter didn't believe me. Over the next week, I checked the safe constantly. Each time, more pieces were missing. The thefts were systematic. Someone was taking 1 or 2 items every few days. I started a new list, noting every safe visit, every disappearance, looking for a pattern. Visited daily, usually in the afternoon, bringing groceries, cleaning, asking about my health. But whenever I mentioned the jewelry, she changed the subject or insisted it was my memory. Mom, let me find you a good psychiatrist, she offered once. Someone who specializes in post-stroke recovery. They can help with your anxiety. I don't need a psychiatrist, I snapped. I need to find my jewelry. Mom, you're obsessed. It's not healthy. That's when I realized, thought I was crazy. The next morning, I woke with a plan. If no one believed in the thefts, I'd prove it myself. First, I called the security company that managed my alarm. Tell me, I asked the operator, have there been any alarm triggers at my house from March 15 to today? Let me check, Mrs. No triggers recorded. The system was disarmed and armed normally. Who disarmed it? Presumably you or family members with the code. Only, and I knew the code. Next, I called a locksmith to change all the door locks, saying I'd lost my keys. He came that day and installed new ones. I hid the keys where only I knew. That evening arrived with groceries. She tried her key, but the lock didn't budge. Mom, she called, knocking. Open the door, it's me. I opened it and saw her puzzled face. Mom, what's with the lock? My key doesn't work. I changed the locks, I said calmly, for security. Why didn't you tell me? Give me a new key. Not now, you're fine without one for now. Frowned. Mom, this is silly. What if something happens and I can't get in? Then you'll knock like now. I could see her irritation, but she hid it. The evening passed tensely. 2 days after changing the locks, nothing had disappeared from the safe. For the first time in a month, my collection remained untouched. It couldn't be a coincidence. Came by that afternoon, as usual. I let her in, and we sat in the kitchen for tea. Mom, she said, I was thinking about your jewelry. Maybe check other banks for a safe deposit box. You might opened one and forgotten. I don't have boxes in other banks. But you could opened a new one. Your memory been off. I studied her closely. There was something insincere in her eyes. How often do you come to my house when I'm not here? What do you mean? You said you check the house, water the plants. How often do you come without me? Flushed slightly, sometimes every few days. Why? Just curious. We sat in silence. Then she said, Mom, give me the new key. It's inconvenient to knock every time. Not yet. I feel safer this way. That's ridiculous. I'm your daughter. For the first time in years, raised her voice at me. In that shout, I heard something that scared me. Desperation, anger, or fear of being caught. 3 days without losses confirmed my suspicions. Someone with access to the house was stealing, and that could only be. But how to prove it? Who? Believe an elderly woman with memory issues over her caring daughter. Then I remembered the camera in the safe. The hidden camera, the size of a coin, was attached to the safe's inner wall. It recorded to a memory card and activated on motion. I'd installed it 2 years ago and forgotten about it until now. If was stealing, it would be on tape. With trembling hands, I opened the safe and found the camera. It was still there, its LED blinking, signaling it was working. I carefully removed the memory card. I wasn't tech-savvy enough to view the footage, so I asked my neighbor, Jason, a young IT guy, for help. I said I needed assistance with home security camera recordings. Sure, Mrs., he said. Bring the card and we'll see what's on it. Jason the footage to his laptop. The card held months of recordings. The camera activated each time the safe was opened. Let's start with March, he suggested. The first clips were from early March, me checking the jewelry before the hospital, then a gap until March 22. March 22, 2:30 p.m., the screen showed the safe's interior. Hands rummaged through the jewelry, hands in thin medical gloves. Can you zoom in? I asked Jason. He enlarged the frame. The hands were feminine with a manicure, on one finger a familiar ring. My heart sank. It was a ring, a gift for her college graduation. Keep going, I said, my voice shaking. Next clip, March 25, same gloved hands. This time they took the pearl necklace. March 28, the ruby bracelet. April 2, the diamond ring. The footage was clear, detailed. Each clip showed the same gloved hands with ring. My daughter, the person I trusted most, who was by my side during my illness, was methodically robbing me while I lay in the hospital. Mrs., are you okay? Jason asked, noticing I'd gone pale. Keep going, I whispered. We watched clips through April and early May, 23 thefts in total. Each time, the same gloved hands, the same ring, came to my house every 2 or 3 days, taking the most valuable pieces. In one clip, I saw her photographing the jewelry before taking it, likely assessing its value or cataloging it for sale. Jason, I said, voice trembling, can you copy these to a USB drive? I need evidence. Of course, should we call the police? I nodded, unable to speak. My world had collapsed. The person I loved most, who supported me through my illness, had betrayed me in the worst way. I didn't sleep that night, replaying the footage, hoping I was wrong, but the ring was undeniable proof. It was. The next morning, she came as usual, bringing groceries, asking about my health. She looked me in the eye and smiled as if nothing had happened. Mom, you look tired, she said. Bad night. Yes, I replied, thinking about the jewelry. She sighed, Mom, please let it go. The doctor said stress is bad for your recovery. What if I'm right? What if they were stolen? Then go to the police, but be prepared, they might not believe you, you have no proof. Such hypocrisy, she suggested the police, knowing she was the thief. All right, I said, maybe I will. A flicker of worry crossed her face, but she quickly composed herself. If you think it's necessary, go ahead, just don't be surprised if they question your memory. We'll see, I said. I went to the police station with the USB drive and asked to speak with a detective. Detective Maria, a middle-aged woman with sharp eyes, listened to my story without interrupting. I understand, Mrs. Do you have evidence? I handed her the drive. Recordings from a camera in the safe, every theft is on there. She plugged the drive into her computer, and we watched several clips. "Do you recognize the ring on the thief's hand?" she asked. "It's my daughter's. I gave it to her 10 years ago." "Mrs., these are serious allegations. Are you sure you want to file a complaint against your daughter?" I paused. Of course, I didn't want to, but I had no choice. "Yes, I'm sure. She stole jewelry worth over $2 million. The detective nodded. "All right, we'll investigate. Be prepared, your daughter will likely deny everything. Are you ready for a confrontation?" "I am." 2 days later, the police searched home with a warrant. I wasn't there. It would have been too painful to see her face when exposed. Detective called me that evening. "Mrs., we found several of your pieces at her house. She claims you gifted them, but she has no documents to prove it." "What about the rest?" "Likely sold. We found contacts for jewelry stores and auction houses. We're tracking the sales." My heart sank. Jewelry I'd collected for decades had been sold off like common goods. "What happens to?" "She's been arrested. First court hearing is tomorrow. The charges are serious: grand theft, abuse of trust, fraud. With this amount of damage, she faces up to 15 years in prison." I hung up and cried for the first time since the stroke. The court hearing was swift, was charged and pleaded not guilty. Her lawyer requested bail, arguing she wasn't a danger to society and had family obligations. The judge set bail at $500,000. I sat in the courtroom, watching my daughter. She was pale, shaken. When our eyes met, I saw not remorse but resentment, as if I were to blame for her being caught. After the hearing, she approached me. "Mom," she said quietly, "do you really think I could steal from you? There's video evidence. I saw your ring on the thief's hand." "That's not proof. Someone else could have a similar ring." Even now, she kept lying. "Stop, I know it was you." "Mom," her eyes filled with tears, "I had financial problems, huge debts. I planned to return the jewelry once I sorted it out." Finally, the truth, but too late. "Why didn't you ask for help? I would given you money. You'd have lectured me on financial responsibility, like always." There was old childhood resentment in her voice. The issue ran deeper than I'd thought. "You stole $2.5 million from me. That's not a childish prank. I was going to return it. 1 in 10 years, 20. She didn't answer, just turned and walked away. The investigation continued. Police tracked sold jewelry, interviewing buyers and sellers. The picture became clearer. Began selling my collection in March, right after my stroke. She approached various jewelry stores and auction houses, posing as the rightful owner. Some pieces were sold through online auctions. She made about $1.8 million from the sales. The rest of the jewelry, not yet sold, was found during the search. Detective filled me in. "Your daughter planned this carefully. She studied the antique jewelry market, found reliable buyers, and sold gradually to avoid suspicion. Very professional." "Where's the money?" "She paid off $400,000 in credit debts. The rest she invested in stocks and crypto, probably hoping to multiply it and buy back the jewelry. So did plan to return it, but that didn't justify her actions." The media latched onto the story. Headlines screamed, "Daughter robs disabled mother, Boston family drama, $1 million heist in elite family." I avoided interviews, but reporters dug up details from neighbors and former colleagues. Faced intense media scrutiny, too. Her photos were in every local paper. I knew how much she hated publicity, and I felt sorry for her. But pity didn't erase justice. Her lawyer contacted me, proposing a plea deal. "Mrs., my client is willing to plead guilty, return unsold jewelry, and compensate for sold items. In exchange, you could ask the court for leniency." What would that mean? Instead of 15 years, she'd get probation and community service. I considered it. Part of me wanted to face full consequences for her betrayal, but she was still my daughter. "I need time to think." Over the next few days, I reflected on our relationship, wondering where I went wrong as a mother. Maybe I was too strict, demanded too much, offered too little emotional support. Maybe my constant lectures on responsibility pushed her away. But that didn't excuse theft or betrayal. I decided against the play deal, needed to face the full consequences. Meanwhile, the police continued recovering sold jewelry. It was a complex process. Some buyers had resold pieces, others had vanished. By mid-June, they recovered about $800,000 worth of jewelry. The rest was likely gone forever, though insurance covered some losses. Detective explained, Mrs., not all the jewelry can be recovered. Some went overseas, others were melted down. Your daughter will have to compensate financially. Does she have the money? Partially, her assets will be seized. Tried contacting me again, calling late one evening, her voice shaky. Mom, please listen. I know I did something awful, but I'm your daughter. Are you really ready to send me to prison? And you chose this path. I was desperate, huge debts, creditors threatening me. I didn't know what to do. You could asked me for help. I tried hinting, but you didn't get it. Then the stroke happened and I thought it was a sign. A sign to rob your sick mother. Don't say that. I plan to return everything. With what? You had no real plan. A long pause. Mom, if you don't forgive me now, we'll lose each other forever. Is that what you want? Her words hit hard. Of course, I didn't want to lose her, but I couldn't forgive such betrayal. Forgiveness and justice are separate. Maybe someday I'll forgive you, but you need to face the consequences first. She hung up. The trial began on a rainy summer day. The courtroom was packed with reporters and onlookers, drawn by the sensational story. I sat in the front row, watching Ledin handcuffed. She looked pale and worn. A month in detention had taken its toll. The prosecutor presented the evidence, the videos, witness statements, sales records. It was airtight. His lawyer argued she acted under emotional stress, planned to return the jewelry, and was remorseful, but the facts spoke louder. When was given the chance to speak, she stood and looked at me. Your Honor, she said, I plead guilty. I stole from my mother when she was most vulnerable. It's unforgivable. She paused, gathering her thoughts. I won't excuse it with financial troubles or stress. I made a conscious choice and it was wrong. I betrayed the trust of the person closest to me. Her voice trembled, but she continued. Mom, she turned to me, I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I want you to know I regret what I did every day. If given a chance, I'll spend the rest of my life making it right. The room was silent, tears welled in my eyes. For the first time, I heard genuine remorse from my daughter. The judge sentenced her to 8 years in prison, with the possibility of parole after 5, contingent on full restitution and good behavior. It was less than the maximum, but still significant. Accepted the verdict calmly. As she left the courtroom, she looked at me again, her eyes showing acceptance, not resentment. Her lawyer approached me after. Mrs., my client asked me to give you this letter. I took the envelope but didn't read it then, too many emotions. At home, I opened the letter. Dear Mom, I know I have no right to ask for forgiveness, but I want to explain what was going through my head. After your stroke, I was panicking, not just about your health, but my own problems. I'd hidden massive debts for years. Creditors were threatening, and I feared losing my home, my job, everything. When the doctor mentioned your memory issues, a terrible thought crept in. What if? I pushed it away at first, but the financial pressure became unbearable. I told myself it was temporary. I'd sell a few pieces, clear my debts, and buy them back. I planned to replace them with replicas, hoping you wouldn't notice in your condition. But the deeper I went, the more I justified it. Each theft made the previous one seem less wrong. I became someone I didn't recognize. Mom, I don't expect forgiveness, but know that I love you, and I hate myself for hurting you. Your daughter. I sat with the letter for a long time, finally understanding what drove her. It didn't excuse her actions, but it explained them. A month after the trial, life was settling back to normal. My health kept improving, speech nearly fully restored, memory better too. I recovered most of the traceable jewelry. The rest was gone, but insurance helped. The hardest part was the loneliness. Was my only close family, and now she was gone. But I didn't sit idle. I found a therapist specializing in family trauma and joined a support group for parents whose adult children committed crimes. That day, I made a big decision. I visited in prison. The visit was through a glass partition. She looked thinner but calmer than in court. "Mom," she said, surprised, "you came." "Yes, wanted to see how you're doing." "Okay, I work in the prison library, read a lot, think a lot." "About what?" "Us, what I did, trying to figure out how I got here." We sat in silence. "As I got your letter." "What did you think?" "I think you're truly sorry, that's a start." "A start to what?" "Redemption, getting back to a normal life." She looked at me with hope. "So there's a chance for forgiveness." "With time, but you need to prove you've changed, for real." "How?" "Serve your sentence well, find a way to make restitution. Most importantly, figure out why you did this." "I'm working on it every day." "Good, maybe when you're out, we can start over." For the first time in months, smiled. I began a new life. I sold the Charles Street house, too many painful memories, and moved to a smaller apartment in a quiet neighborhood. I didn't rebuild the jewelry collection. Instead, I donated part of the insurance money to a charity helping families of financial crime victims. I also wrote a book about my experience, not for fame or money, but to help others in similar situations. It was called Betrayal by Loved Ones: How to Survive and Forgive. I spent New Year's alone but didn't feel lonely. Over the months, I'd made friends in the support group and picked up painting, a hobby I hadn't touched since youth. Wrote weekly, sharing about prison life, books she read, psychology courses she took. She was working on herself. In one letter, she wrote, "Mom, I realized something. I didn't just steal your jewelry. I stole your trust, your love, your peace. That's far worse than the material loss, but I'll work to restore that too." A year after the stroke, I could honestly say I'd not only recovered physically, but grown stronger mentally. Betrayal was a devastating blow, but it opened my eyes. It taught me to trust but verify that even the closest people can do the unthinkable, and that forgiveness is possible but takes time and effort from both sides. That day, a year to the day after my stroke, I visited again. "Mom," she said, "thank you for not giving up on me completely. You're my daughter. It took time, but I realized love doesn't vanish because of mistakes. It can be wounded but not destroyed. When I'm out, I'll prove I'm worthy of that love. You'll have that chance, but remember, trust must be earned anew." "I know, I'm ready." Was released on parole after 3 years. She'd fully compensated for the financial damage, partly from her own funds, partly through prison work and a rehabilitation fund. I met her at the prison gates. She looked different, more serious, mature. The carefree spark was gone, replaced by a wisdom born of suffering. "Mom," she said, hugging me, "I'm ready to start over." "Then let's start," I replied. On March 1, 2025, turned 40, we celebrated quietly at home over tea. She works as a consultant for a nonprofit helping people with financial troubles, and she's proud of it. Our relationship isn't what it was. The old ease is gone, maybe forever, but something new has emerged: honesty, maturity, and appreciation for what we have. Proves daily through actions, not words, that she's changed, and I'm slowly learning to trust her again. The stroke and its aftermath were the hardest trials of my life, but they taught me vital lessons. Forgiveness is possible, people can change, and family isn't just blood. It's a choice to stand by each other despite pain and mistakes. The camera in the safe, I removed it. I don't need it anymore. The best protection against betrayal isn't surveillance, it's open, honest relationships. And yes, I've started collecting jewelry again. Not as extravagant as before, but each piece holds meaning, a symbol of a new chapter where beauty isn't locked away but lives openly, despite the risks and past wounds. What did you think of this story? Share your thoughts in the comments and let me know where you're reading from. Don't forget to subscribe for more compelling stories. Until next time.